Hello, and welcome to our third mega session of the Global Supply Chain Institute's Fall 2020 Virtual Forum. My name is Mary Long. I'm the Managing Director of our forum, and I would like to thank all of our forum partners for helping to make this possible. We love to bring you new and interesting content, and you will see that today in our session. I'm going to quickly cover a few housekeeping items before turning it over to David and Kevin. As many of you remember from our in-person forum sessions, we use Slido for our Q&A. And so you can submit questions by using that session Q&A feature on the left-hand side of the web app. You'll be able to upvote the questions in the queue that you find most interesting. If you have questions for the tech team, please leave a comment in the forum feed, also on the left side, or email us at the GSCI email address. We will post a recording of the session next week, along with a copy of the presentation deck, and it will be in our event app. All right, joining me today are David Morgan and Kevin O'Meara from Shaw Industries. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, so please tell us a bit more about yourselves. And David, I'll start with you.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm David Morgan. I lead operations here at Shaw Industries, which includes our manufacturing elements and our supply chain, along with enterprise excellence and our lean efforts. I've been with this company for quite a long time, doing several different roles, and with that time, 37 years in total.
Hey, thanks for having us. My name is Kevin O'Meara, and I have a responsibility for the supply chain at Shaw Industries, and that includes everything from, as you'll see on some of the slides, it includes everything from inventory management, sourcing, customer service, distribution, and logistics. And of course, I report to David. I have been with the company coming up on 3 years now, so you'll see us talk a little bit about that as we go through. So, David, if you want to take over and kind of walk us through some of the items, and then I'll jump in a little bit later.
All right, thank you, Kevin. This morning, I wanted to talk a little bit about Shaw Industries, the elements in our global supply chain, and some of the steps we have taken over the decades of building up Shaw to where it is today. The importance of talent in that supply chain and how we think about that talent and what we're looking for in the future. And Kevin and I will be tag teaming on that. Well, first I want to start that, people know us as a carpet company or maybe a flooring company. We're a lot more than a flooring company. We're more than a manufacturer or a supply chain organization. We're really 20,000 individuals that come together every day to form Shaw. And when we form Shaw, we give it the energy and the focus to achieve its purpose. And just to talk about that purpose, and it really goes to, we call it a purpose a lot of times. It's in our statement around our vision. It's the highest point of this company, and what we exist is to create a better future for our customers, for our people, for our company, and for our communities. There's no way we can be successful in any one of these elements without supporting and growing and investing in all of those elements. They're all tied together, and we're passionate about that. We achieve that with great people, great products, great service, always. And it goes to say, well, our values kind of drive us and guide us with our decision making. We're going to be honest with our customers and with ourselves. We're going to have integrity that reflects how we treat others with respect, and having the courage to speak candor, listening and better understanding the diverse perspectives and the ideas of those that are around us. And we're really, really passionate about what we do and what it means to work for Shaw Industries. To give you a little feel for what we are at a very high level, we operate over 100 manufacturing and distribution facilities in 30 states and across 3 countries. Each day, customers contact us over 10,000 times, and we execute over 4,500 customer deliveries. We're almost $6 billion in annual sales, and our portfolio includes over 40,000 SKUs. So it's a broad list of products that we serve. But we know that going back to our 20,000 associates, we know that the culture we create is of the utmost importance. And so we invest in training every year in developing our team, and we encourage the attitude of continuous learning. And this focus has led to routine recognition, as you could see in some of these latest rankings that we've been privileged to receive. Next, we're going to show you a quick video that kind of provides a look at some of our facilities and speaks to our products and positions in the market we serve. And then I'll give you a little bit of history of how we grew to what you're seeing here.
Innovative, invested, committed. Shaw is committed to being our customers' first and best choice. With more than 40 U.S. manufacturing facilities and operations in Scotland and China to further serve international markets, and 13,000 manufacturing associates in the U.S. alone, we carry out that mission through innovation. Innovation in what we make, innovation in how we make it. With a commitment to both hard and soft surface manufacturing in the U.S., we're proud to be the largest domestic manufacturer of engineered hardwood, the largest U.S. modular resilient manufacturer, the world's largest carpet manufacturer, and North America's largest carpet tile manufacturer. We deliver a broad array of products to meet our customers' diverse needs across residential and commercial markets throughout the world. That requires an intelligent, efficient, integrated supply chain and robust, sustainable sourcing practices. No matter where or by whom a product or ingredient is made, it's held to the same high standards. We're in a strong position, innovative, invested, committed to being the ideal business partner for our customers.
Well, I hope that gives you kind of a feel of what we are today. Give you just a moment to talk about how we got there. We've been in business about 55 years now, as we define it, and we really originated in soft floor covering. But over the first three and a half decades, we worked at developing both and growing both organically and through acquisition, and vertically integrating both back toward our supply chain and out toward our customers. We built distribution and transportation systems outward to deliver product to our customers, and we acquired and built yarn and fiber and backing operations to feed our carpet facilities. We then went on and acquired competitors to build in capacity to serve the market. About 20 years ago, we entered into the hard surface market by building a couple of hard surface plants. That started a trend of other acquisitions into the hardwood category, where we purchased 3 different companies. And about 10 years ago, we had a very specific move where we entered into a resilient flooring market through the acquisition of a U.S. distributor. That really started growing Shaw Industries in the hard surface business. We grew to become the largest provider of modular resilient in North America. We did that first through style design and technical development, utilizing our contract manufacturing all over the world. And then we went into the manufacturing of those products. And so we have a balanced approach today, both make and to buy through contract manufacturing. But as we moved into that, we knew that developing those things and growing our supply chain, that our talent and experience was not going to carry us to the complexity that we were seeing move and the speed that the systems were moving at that time. So we started looking outside for additional knowledge and experience, and we wanted to really do some skip cycles of learning. And that really gets us to the point where we were in the market looking for talent, and we came across and we were able to encourage and attract Kevin O'Meara to join Shaw Industries, and he leads our integrated supply chain now. So Kevin, I'll turn that over to you.
Great. Thank you, David. Appreciate that. And, coming to Shaw, obviously, with a lot to learn in both the manufacturing space, flooring, and then also in the sourcing space. But really, the model that I have up on the screen right now is what probably most of you have seen or have developed in some manner or fashion, either in your company or in your classes. But we really take a hard look at the end-to-end supply chain. And as David pointed out, we are incredibly vertically integrated, especially on the manufacturing side. And so when we say end to end, we really mean all the way back to raw materials that then go into manufacturing processes that produce intermediates, which then go into the final construction of the product. And with the end-to-end supply chain, the one point I really want to come across is, and again, I think David emphasized this, is we really do believe the customer drives everything we do, and the customer really votes for whether we're performing in the marketplace or not. So we look at this chart from a right to left standpoint and not left to right. And we came into this, the first thing we wanted to do is really understand our customers' needs and our customers' desires. And while we're transitioning product and getting more and more into the hard surfaces, what we are finding is the demands the customer has of hard surface product suppliers is different than the demands they have of the soft surface side. So it truly is multiple supply chains where you have a soft surface, has different customer needs, different demands. You have hard surfaces, different customer, different demands. We actually service other industries like the RV industry. And so one of the things we had to do, and one of the items I did, it really kind of look at all the different supply chains we have and build out a model using this as our guideline, but build out a model for each one of those supply chains. And just as a side note, I do think the World Series this year is being played on our turf that we make. We make the turf for some of the football and baseball fields, and I think the World Series is playing on our product. But that's really we have these multiple supply chains, and what we really drive towards and think about is the number one KPI that matters is the voice of the customer. We put in and have put in over the years our net promoter score, other types of measurements where we literally look at, find out what the customer wants, and then be able to respond to what the customer wants. Because again, from our perspective, as we design and build out our supply chain and operate it, the customer, everybody gets a vote, but there's really only one vote that counts, and that's the customer. And so, we in supply chain are leading the way in delivering on that customer experience. And these are just general industry statistics. But what we're finding more and more, and kind of an aha moment for us as we get more into this hard surface space as well, is the product is really, really important. And of course, it's the number one. I mean, no one's going to buy a product that they dislike. But all the things that go around that product, great service, great availability, great back end service of the product after it's installed, those are the things that customers are really driving. And so we've built that into our supply chain. Now, in order to do that, of course, we have to be pretty agile. And you saw the title of this presentation is about From Tariffs to Pandemic. We've been deeply involved in all these tariffs that have gone on over the last few years, obviously deeply involved in the pandemic. And this slide was actually created before those events took place, because our model has always been we have to be agile. And I know that's kind of the word of the day, and a lot of people are talking about being agile, but it's kind of in our DNA and what we've tried to be. And what being agile means is stay very focused on what the definition of success is, and then find those key leverage points and the key levers to move, and then appropriately move them. You'll see on the right-hand side of this screen, and we're going to talk a little bit more about these things, but we have what's called the Chaway, which is just kind of the way we do business. and we don't violate that. We have a very in-depth talent model that I'll talk a little bit about, but it really allows our people to flourish in this type of environment. And then PX is all about our ability to give feedback to each other, by the way, in both directions, so that we can continually get better as we develop talent. And, from that perspective, one of the items that we talk about a lot here at Shaw, and we believe it in the supply chain, is the whole idea of this extreme ownership. And if you see it, you own it. And people do that quite regularly. And so you find that we're a fairly entrepreneurial company as well. But from a development standpoint, people can own a lot of things here at Shaw. So kind of, what builds us up, I mean, as you see from the top one, is it's all about talent. It's all about people. We have machines, other people can buy machines, but the people that are energized and working in our supply chain are what makes it great. We're also on a very probably expanded path now, but also a very fast path to continue digitizing our enterprise and working with data. And we talk a lot about, I'm sure you've all heard of the digital twin and that whole concept. But we talk a lot about taking our supply chain, taking all the events of our supply chain, digitize it so that you now have the whole supply chain and all the things that have occurred within the supply chain in the digital world. And that allows our knowledge people, our knowledge workers, and the people that in our company to be able to take that data and really analyze it, understand where we need to react and respond, and be able to react and respond very, very quickly. And that's kind of our future. I want to talk a little bit about personnel development because it is what really drives us. And there's really two very simple concepts that everybody that we bring into the company and we develop and train and continue to train. We are a learning company. It's all about business acumen and leadership acumen. Our folks have to know the business and have to know it really well. We're fairly liberal with all of the data. And so people can see data and can react to it. And then leadership acumen, it does not matter. It's almost hard to find a true individual contributor here because almost everyone is leading something. And you have to be a good leader to thrive in this environment. Now, what do we do about that? Well, we go through what we call the Wayfinder, the Shaw Wayfinder, and we look and as we work with individuals, we're always assessing and planning, we're attracting, and we're energizing, engaging, and then we're developing. We have one of the best learning academies that I've ever been involved in. In fact, it's won numerous recognition, as you saw. But people get to learn a lot and really get to be trained while they're here at Shaw. Then, of course, we talk about the Shaw Way, and this is the Shaw Way. This is what I discussed, and you can see on the left-hand side of the 4-box quadrant, it's about building and empowering people. And we have great people in our supply chain, and they're really doing some amazing things. We have to grow, obviously, and we also catalyze the innovation and change. One of the things that we have taken it upon ourselves within the supply chain and within the company overall is we do truly disrupt ourselves. We were, as David said, we were a carpet company, but we needed to bring the capabilities of hard surface in because that's what the customer was asking for. And obviously it did disrupt a little bit the carpet world. And then you can see the elements of our culture here, which we can talk about in Q&A, but all of this really drives what we're trying to do as a company. And from the people standpoint, I am a very rare occurrence here at Shaw that has been here for 3 years. I am proud to say, and I think the company is very proud to say, that people come here and do a career at Shaw, and it's because we invest in that training and continuous learning. And I think it's important that really drives our supply chain success. When I first got here, talking to individuals in jobs, and they had been in jobs 7-10 years, and they had made it better and better every year, so they didn't get stagnant. And you find we have deep expertise in a lot of key areas. So one of the things that we think is a true strength of our supply chain is having that deep expertise within our company. So hopefully that gave you a good overview of Shaw, and hopefully it also gave you a good overview of how we think about talent and people within the company and how they really drive the success of our company. Shaw's been a highly successful company. We don't do everything perfectly, but one of the development areas we have with people is we ask people to be vulnerable and open up. And if we make a mistake, we make a mistake, and we learn and we move on with it. So it is really the people really drive that. So with that, hopefully that was a good introduction. And Mary, or we can turn it over and do some Q&A.
My first question is, there's that saying, hindsight is 2020. And I'm sure all of us cannot wait till 2020 is done. But I'd really love for you to comment on what your key takeaways have been from this year. You've had a lot of change that you've managed and the agility that you've shown. Talk to us about that. And David, I'll start with you, and then Kevin will go to you.
Okay, I would say that one of my key takeaways is just the we thought things moved fast, and we always were ready to watch and adjust one item or two items at a time. And this year everything is moving from one end of the supply chain to the other, and it is moving so fast. And so what we've learned is when you have to assemble the data, gather up the people that can be collaborative, make a decision, communicate, and then monitor, because the decision, while good to great at the moment, could turn sour on you in just seems like moments, because things are moving so fast. And we've had to, one of the things, we've had to become very entrepreneurial in that, and one of the things I talk about when being entrepreneurial is that when we make a decision or do something and it doesn't turn out exactly like we had hoped and planned and dreamed, in other words, sometimes it just goes 180 degrees. We've got to stop that immediately, communicate, correct, and move forward. But one of the most important things, you can't drag the bad decision with you, because it will slow you down. You have to move on. And that is one of the key attributes of being entrepreneurial. Otherwise, after 4 or 5 bad decisions, you're moving so slow, you're no longer effective in a fast market. So that's kind of what has been proven to us this year. And I can only hope and pray as the year turns, things will become more normal. But this is what we've gotten used to, certainly this year. Kevin?
Yeah, no, I think you said it great. I think, we experienced all facets of it. I'll actually go back pre-2020, and we got hit on again, off again with these tariffs, and the product that we purchase was tariffed, and that of course changed everything. And then very quickly you go into this pandemic that starts with a supply destruction. Then it goes into a demand problem. And then quite frankly, in our industry, it's bounced right back up. We're in one of those industries, the home building, and you've heard the stories, everybody's staying at home, so they're fixing up their house. Well, that means everybody's putting a new floor in, thankfully, and we appreciate everyone that's doing that. And if you like one floor, you'd like 2 better. But having said that, so now of course we're chasing that. What David said is absolutely right. You can't dwell on something that, because this is all new, there is no book for it. If something doesn't go right, toss it, move on to the next thing.
Yeah, I really love that. You can't drag the bad decision with you. That is such a great lesson to apply for all of the things we're doing. One of the things we talked about is how unpredictability is the enemy of operations. And we've had, nothing but that. But what I really wanted to hone in on is how your talent strategy, what you talked about with us through the presentation about the way you think about talent, how did that help you during these unpredictable times?
Well, if you recall on one of the slides that Kevin had on the screen, he talked about an SPC or the team that comes around a business, and it includes all the facets of a business. Whether they're direct connected in the org chart is really irrelevant. They are virtually connected around the business, be it the supply chain, the manufacturing. And we work in that fashion, in that all of these expertise come together and become, if you will, the board of directors of that business. And having that group closer to the business keeps them wired to the things that are happening in that element, in that one little subset of our organization or enterprise. And being close to that, they can move faster. And so, as we said, Kevin mentioned, everybody kind of talks about agility today. But the closer you get to the data and the more empowering you make that team, the quicker they can respond to the volatility in the market. Because you're exactly right, Mary. People that make and move things, we love low standard deviations. We like things consistent and predictable. We like to be able to draw a line out for decades and it'll always be that way, kind of thing. You can. In my world, you can really, really become efficient if you know that, but that's not reality. So that volatility has just taught us we must be close to the market. As Kevin perfectly outlined, we have to listen to the customer. We have to pay attention to the customer, be close to the market, and empower people to make decisions. And that's, thankfully, we were working that model, but it has taxed and exercised that muscle even more, and we won't deter from that model.
Uh-huh. Kevin, I don't know if you want to jump in on that one.
No, I would just say that we have that whole idea of business acumen, where we have really spent time over the years training and developing people to think like business owners. Think like business has really helped us in this environment, because so much of what we had to do has been around speed. We've had to execute really fast. There's not enough time to take every idea up to the boardroom and present and get all the normal kind of big company. We had to put it in the hands of the people that were close to the business and let them execute. And so that's, as David said, I think we're going to put that even on steroids coming out of this.
Right. That is a perfect segue to, we're getting a lot of questions coming in. I'm slacking on my duties here, but the first one is about agility. Agility is the goal for many companies. How do you train current and new team members to have an agile mindset? And you mentioned some of that, but if you could expand a bit then.
I could take that to start with. I think one of the things that we mentioned in the discussion, but I think we got to come back to it, because some of you I may know, and so I've been in a couple of companies, and one of the things that's unique here is people do work across boundaries, and so you have people that are in manufacturing, and then they go over to category. They might even go into sales for a while. The person that manages all of our business solutions for the supply chain was a territory manager in sales to start off with. And because of that, and because of us being very open to that, that's really driven our capability to be agile, because people understand the business. They don't have this, I've been doing this one area of the company for 10 years and I'm not quite, they have that perspective, and they can immediately start talking about, hey, if we do this, this is how it's going to affect a territory manager. Why do I know that? Because I used to be one, and I know what it's like. And that really, I think, has helped us grow. And so what do we do with new folks coming in? and to develop them is we give them those opportunities, and we not only give it, we encourage those opportunities so that they're readily available in the when they're working these.
I think that's perfect. You heard a couple of words there, and I think are real important. I'll repeat them: boundaryless. When you're working in the enterprise, wherever you're plugged in, you've got to be boundaryless. We encourage having a high level of awareness, and that really comes from what Kevin was talking about. You're an expert in what you do. You must learn what all the other parts of the enterprise and how it works. Be curious about that.
Mhm.
Our company is very encouraging to go forth and learn that. We'll expose you to things, and that you will always be better in your current role if you understand the entire enterprise and how things move. And Kevin also said earlier that we're very open with data. We want people to be able to understand, because when someone pulls a lever, they need to understand all the consequences of that, or at least a reasonable amount of consequences. And if they feel like there's a dark area in their knowledge, they go get collaboration with that quickly and then move on. And so it is it's not an exact science. It is not a rigorous step 1, step 2, step 3 in doing that. It feels more organic, but it is enabled by our culture, that people don't feel like, well, that's not in your area, you need to get back in your lane. There are no lanes here. It is about the enterprise or the particular business someone's serving.
Right. That is excellent. Kind of expanding along the lines of this agility, there's a question they want you to, answer the money slide question. And there's a fine balance between lean and agility, right? We need efficiency, we need lean, we need agility. Can you talk to that? Too tight of an optimal process can reduce agility. So do you believe that can you go lean and be agile? What are your thoughts on that?
Let me jump in, and Kevin, you follow. Absolutely, you can be a lean organization. As I speak of lean, and when I speak of lean, I think about process improvement technologies around improving your process. You can always remove waste, whether it's overproduction or movement that shouldn't be in the system. All of that can, and having a mindset of that as you become agile will allow you to make better moves. It is a balance, and that's where leadership comes in, and business acumen that Kevin was talking about. You have to connect to more than just yourself. That's the leadership portion of it. The business acumen is understanding those connections I was mentioning earlier so that you can be efficient and effective. Given the situation that any business is in, you have to look at, do I need to be more effective with our customers today and possibly a little less efficient? And there are days and times for that. You move to that. And as things become stable, you drive inefficiency and drive waste out. But it's never that, again, it's not that straight line, and it requires, that's why it requires human beings. I know systems take away the mundane work that we have to do. The digitization will take away the mundane. It will not take away the cleverness and the creativity of the human being. And that's why when we come together every day, the 20,000 people that make up Shaw, when we come together every day, we create Shaw. It's not the buildings or the equipment. It's our ability to engage the business and create a better future with all our actions every day.
Yeah, this is I think you called it the money question, Mary. This is the one, right? But I think, again, going back to the knowledge of business acumen and why it's so important for us to make sure that everybody has that overall business acumen is you have to understand what stage a particular part of your company might be in to determine which lever to pull. And so let me just give you an example is the carpet side of the business is a mature business, been around a while. And so there's a lot more, I'll call it leaning out, if you will, where we look for efficiencies. In the hard surface side, it grew so fast and it was moving so quickly that we didn't throw caution to the wind, but we said, look, we don't even have enough time to build our own manufacturing facilities. We're going to go and find the best suppliers, and we're going to acquire it, and we're going to win in the marketplace because we're going to, as David has told me before, I love this statement. It's we're going to leverage our strong balance sheet to drive the P&L. And so we're going to put in a lot more inventory than probably your quote system might say is the optimal amount, but we're going to put it in because that's how fast that business is moving. But then as the businesses mature, then obviously we'll go and start quote leaning it out a little bit. So knowing that business acumen, knowing what stage you're in, knowing where you're at in the marketplace drives the balance of this agility and lean and all that.
A good example of that we all are probably familiar with is the move from a CRT to a flat panel TV that most people have in their homes today. The first flat panel TVs everyone was different, and the cost was incredibly high. Today, you can buy just about anything you want, and if you're not chasing the latest technology and the bleeding edge, the value proposition is incredible for the amount of screen you get. That's a perfect example of what Kevin just went through, understanding how stable the technology is, how stable the market demand is, and your capability to answer to both of those. And it changes. So one playbook will not work. You have to understand the part of the curve that market is sitting on, not necessarily your business, because the market's the one that determines how you need to act. Your company cannot do that, because the market is by definition what consumers are acting on. And Kevin led us to that and talked about that a little bit earlier. You have to stay connected with our consumers.
This has been a great discussion of that internal versus your external focus. One of the questions here too is collectively, how much do you emphasize taking time to think about the future, time to understand how supply chain is evolving? So how much focus do you put on trying to get your heads and the organization wrapped around what the future will hold?
Let me jump in that a little bit. One of the things that we think about is we've got to have part of our organization working on the important and urgent. And we have to have part of our organization working on the important and not urgent. That's a couple of quadrants that Covey talks about. We have the people working in the business and on the business. And the ones in the business, and I'll have to admit, this year, more of us have moved to work in the business because of the volatility and the change, and sometimes all hands on deck. But we try to balance that. In operations, one of the things that we have chosen to do for several years now is come together on a routine basis and think about disruptors in our marketplace. With the things that we do across our operational footprint to support and enable the enterprise to succeed, what disruptors may come into our windshield as time goes on, and more importantly, what are the drivers to those disruptors? Because if those drivers change, the things causing what we believe to be true changes. There's a driver there. If we watch the drivers, we'll understand how that belief will change. And in doing that, what might we do about that? And so we're not always right, but we're looking for out at the end of the curve, which way is it bending? What is it looking like? What's the most probable thing will come? And we'll tie into why do we believe that? And we come together as a group and go through those things. And that kind of sets some of the things we need to do long term. As a company, we've kind of reset some things given the condition of this year and all of the changes in the marketplace. We know whatever curve was coming, either the curve has changed or it's turning a lot faster. So what we thought a year ago is not the reality today. And so we're having to pay attention to that. And we're making sure the work that we're doing as an enterprise is going to support the way our marketplaces will feel and act, and the decisions made in those marketplaces for years to come. Kevin?
Yeah, I think our culture drives, we say, we talk about this quite a bit, first and foremost, success and the ability to execute the day to day gives you the right to think about the future. I mean, if you can't execute and you don't, so obviously we have to take care of that. And there's times, as David said, we fluctuate in and out of those. But then we do think about the future. We have these quarterly meetings. And I'll tell you one thing, and this is just, a benefit that we have is because we're privately owned, we're owned by Berkshire Hathaway. And, Warren Buffett always says, I'd rather have a lumpy 15% than a smooth 10%. And so we have the capability within our culture and our structure to think much longer term than maybe, many may be used to if you're in more of a publicly held type of environment.
Yeah, that is great. I really like the success in day-to-day execution gives you the right to focus on the future. I think that that's the whole challenge in balancing, all of these tasks that we try to do in supply chain, strategy and execution. And David, I'm so excited that you mentioned Covey because I bring up Covey in all my classes. And so it's nice to be validated. So thanks for that. Just as a reminder to the audience, if you would like to upvote questions, we have a lot of questions. So now there is no way that we will, in the time we have remaining, get to these. So if you would like to participate and influence what I pick to ask in these remaining 10, 12 minutes, then feel free to upvote and that'll pop it to the top. But since I get to pick, I'm going to go to, we've talked a lot about talent. And so one of the things that did come up from others, and it's in this chat, is, during the early stages of the pandemic, you had internships on the table, and there were companies who had to make a tough call to not continue with their internships. What led you to say, yes, we'll go all in, we'll keep the internships? Why did you make that choice?
Yeah, so we had, believe me, that was a tough decision. We had many meetings on it and we talked about it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we got that, go back to our long-term view and our long-term of the company. And we said, look, we can't afford to not invest in this area because it'll have repercussions years down the road. And, 3 years down the road, you may find yourself with a dearth of talent and you think like you have a problem there, but really that problem got created 3 years ago. And it got created 3 years ago because of, now some, of course, companies had to do it for a variety of reasons, but I'll tell you, I was able to have, I think it was maybe a year ago or so, we had lunch with a gentleman by the name of Greg Abel. Greg Abel is one of two direct reports to Warren Buffett. So it was a small, intimate lunch. And I remember he said, once he said, and this is long before the pandemic, and I mean, we're just talking about what if the economy slows down and all this stuff. And he said, look, when the economy slows down, companies tend to cut two things. They tend to cut people and they cut innovation. And he said, those are precisely the two things you shouldn't cut. Those are precisely the two things you shouldn't cut. Because that's the view is, hey, we'll get through these things. These things happen. Anybody that's been in business for more than a few years knows there's going to be cycles. I'm not sure we've ever gone through anything like this, but hey, there are cycles. And you're going to get through it. And the long-term strength of the enterprise is what we're paid to make sure and exists and protect it. We're not paid to make, we obviously have to make it to tomorrow, but we're paid to make sure we protect that long-term success and protect the enterprise. And that's why we did it.
I'd add to that we are confident and encouraged that we have a very bright future in our category and for our company. And and Kevin said it well, we cannot fall behind on talent. Anybody can buy build a building and buy equipment. You can, money's cheap now if you want to go borrow money. And it is about our talent that drives this business every day, from unloading a material that's way upstream in our supply chain to delivering to our customer, and doing something that's so special to them that they said, don't ever send anybody but this driver to deliver to us. And so it's all of us. And so talent flows all through the organization. So Kevin said it right on. We cannot jeopardize the future for this particular moment.
Along those lines, what are some of the talent management KPIs that you use? So how do you measure success in this area? It's complicated, right? So what do you pay attention to in that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, all the normal ones you'd think about. I mean, we bring in what we consider top talent. We want them to grow. We have a pretty detailed supply chain development program that we put in place a couple of years ago, and that's a 3-year program. And they go to different assignments, so you get different perspectives and views on them. We're very conscious because, most of those, anybody that's been involved in those rotational programs knows that the tendency to pull them out of it and put them in a job because you absolutely need it right now and they're so good, and that's another long-term item. We resist that temptation and we let them go through sourcing, planning, distribution, logistics, customer service, analytics, and data analytics. We let them cycle through those so we can get a good feel for how they perform, and we monitor and manage that, and we have report outs on that. We also, with David, do a quarterly talent review, and that isn't like, hey, we're doing a talent review on specific levels of the company. We'll go to any level in the company to say, boy, we really want to highlight this person. Let's go through their development needs. Let's go through what their success are. And so we look at that as well. And then, all the normal ones, we obviously don't want turnover, especially in these high potential folks. And so we manage that and look at those kinds of KPIs as well. It's probably a lot more subjective than objective, but
I'd add things to that. One thing is we look at diversity, and it's more than just what you see. It is what you see, but it is also the education, the experience, the diversity in thought that brings the complex thinking to the forefront, which is what it takes to solve some of the problems we face today. And that's really important. So we look for that in our teams and in individuals, and some of that's seen in just the experience they have. One of the things we try to impart to young professionals or new professionals into the organization is that they may not realize it, but we want them to be wildly successful at Chaway Industries. And I can't emphasize that enough. And when you think about it, well, you think, okay, that makes sense, because why wouldn't we want them to be wildly successful? We want them to find the place where they're very passionate about what they're doing and become an expert or have the adventure of a lifetime, becoming passionate about different parts of the business and being expert and contribute in all those parts of the business. But we absolutely want them to become wildly successful in that. And that's a measure. How successful are the people? And our contribution to that is meaningful. We have to participate in that. It's not all on the new individual. It has to be that where we engage and we carry some of that responsibility, and we take that seriously.
Right. Wow, that definitely sounds like a place that all of us would really love to be, at a place where everyone around us is hoping and encouraging our success. So that's great. It's interesting, like the conversations we keep having seem to segue into the question that gets upvoted. So my job today is super easy. One, people are interested in how are you attracting scarce data scientists, employees to Shaw. So we've talked about digitalization, you've talked about diversity of talent and scarce talent, this kind of, pulling it together. And I guess you don't really want to reveal your secret sauce here, so.
Yeah, we're not going to tell you exactly.
No, we don't know anything about that.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, I will say that, I mean, first, you got to give people, and you got to allow for an environment where people have really meaningful work and they can do great things. And so when we recruit and talk, even data scientists, whomever it is, we talk about all the things we just talked about, because people, one of the things we find when you bring in folks like that, you better let them blossom. Because if you lock them up in a corner and say, here, run this report, run that, or do this, do that, they're not going to be fulfilled. And so you have to provide that and you have to be able to show that you're providing that fulfilling area. The other one I would say, and this is kudos to University of Tennessee, and there's others. We have a few Georgia Tech grads here, and so we have more than a few. I think I'm the only one that isn't, by the way. But
there's two.
There's
No,
two.
I'm just kidding.
Having said that, I mean, it's a kudos to University of Tennessee and why we joined this forum and why we are so passionate about being involved in University of Tennessee is when you link up with a great university like that and you get deeply involved and deeply embedded, the talent is there. And of course, there's a great analytics and data science program there, and the talent is there. And if I were going to give one, and I don't know if it's secret sauce or not, but if I was going to give one suggestion, it is we would advocate UTK, but line up with whomever and really go deep with them, because that's where the talent comes from, and you can influence it very early on and bring that talent in, and then let them blossom. Let them blossom. I'll give you an example. We have our lead, Erica Schwartz, she runs our data analytics within supply chain. And we were talking at David's strategy meeting about how do we get it to the next level? How do we do it? We started talking about it. And then we said, hey, why are we talking about it? Let's get together with Erica. Let's let her develop that. Let's let her ask for what resources does she need? What do we need? And so we did that on Monday, and now she is jazzed up and she's putting together proposals. And that's what I mean by let them blossom,
Right.
Engagement, empowerment, and encouragement. That's it. I mean, if you have the right people, that's gasoline on fire.
That is fantastic. Well, this session went by so fast. We are at the end. I was going to try to hold us for even a final question, but we're just going to wrap there, because I think what you ended on there are powerful messages to lead us all forward. So everyone on the line, if you could take a minute to give us feedback, it always helps us to form these sessions for the future. And thank you both so much for being with us today. This was amazing. So many great sound bites. I took a ton of notes. And I do want to remind people that we've got a session this afternoon. Mary Holcomb and I are doing a session on the future trends shaping transportation. And then next week, we'll have a lightning round session with our UT supply chain faculty on current research. And you'll have an opportunity to meet with our undergraduate scholars of distinction during executive speed networking. Thanks again so much for being here. Thanks to David and Kevin. It's been great. And thanks so much to the team behind the scenes who helped put all this together.
Thank you.
Thank you.